All right, everybody, it's your boy Genius out at the range. I have the Echelon 4.0C Comp and the CZ P-10c Ported. Technically, both of them are ported. Either way, going to do a comparison between these two today. And sometimes I think that I'm a little bit unfair in that I just say, well, how does it shoot? You know, how does it handle the recoil? Is there a difference in muzzle rise? How fast can I shoot with it? Things of that nature. Maybe the trigger. And I don't really go through too many heights, weights, because of course I just always say you can look that up, you know, 5 minutes on your phone or less, which is the same exact thing that I'm going to do. But I am going to go through all of those things just in case for the one that is considering possibly carrying a ported gun, which these are just range toys for me. But if you're going to carry a ported gun, to each their very own. And if you were going to, you might want to know that information. So I am going to go through some of that, the feature set, things of that nature, and I'm going to show some shooting while I'm talking about that, okay? Before I get started, as always, I want to invite you to know Jesus Christ is your Savior. Right now, you can click on the link in the corner of the screen. That'll take you over to a video where I go all the way back to the Garden of Eden, where we find ourselves now, how we got in the condition we are in as sinners, and the plan of salvation, how you can know for sure that you will go to heaven if you were to pass today. Make sure you take care of that. Today is a day of salvation. Don't wait any longer. Also, if you enjoy what Amanda and I try to do, go over to Patreon. You can also click on the link in the corner of the screen. Consider supporting us really as much as you want. 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever you want to do every month. I do upload everything over there. You can go over there and watch it ad free. Also, you can consider going to our website. Again, right-hand corner of the screen, click on the link. Take you over to our website. You can pick up some merchandise. Also, you can click on the 3 lines in the left-hand corner of the screen. Scroll to pop down, click on support the channel. It's pretty self-explanatory from there. Again, every last bit of it will go back into the channel. If you've noticed, we've done less shooting in these videos, and there's a reason for that, because it is becoming more and more difficult to continue to buy the ammunition to do these videos. So consider supporting us. Every bit of it is appreciated and will all go back into the channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of the specs of these two guns, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to overlay it with pictures, videos, things of that nature, just going through some of the specs, heights, lengths, weight, feature set on the gun, things of that nature. So let's get to doing that, and then we'll show a little bit of the shooting that we done. So on the the overall, well, let's just start with some of the features, then we'll talk about some of the lengths, heights, weights, things of that nature. Obviously, the slide work on the Echelon is a little bit better than is the CZ. The, you know, serrations are a little bit more aggressive. It has those ears at the rear like you see on some of the VP9s from HK. So you have more index points, I guess, to really manipulate that slide and feel like you got a lot of control over it. Although I do like the serrations on the CZ as well, as they adopted that Nocturne coming over the top. And so they are usable, very effective. The sights, I actually prefer the sights, the luminescent night sights on the CZ. Although I'm not a huge fan of green in any platform, I've never really been a huge fan of that U-notch on the rear sight for the Echelon. And although it does have a tritium field front night sight, and a lot of people do really like the sights on the Echelon, okay? Coming on down, obviously, as you can see in both of the pictures, that the chunk port that is in both of these guns is significantly larger on the P-10C than it is on the Echelon. And that's not my fault. You can say, well, you know, you shouldn't compare them. One of them has a bigger port, all of that. One of them's heavier, all this other stuff. Well, you know what? If you're making a gun that's in the same category as the other in size and all of that, it's in competition with it, I can't help it do better, make a bigger port. It does have a bigger port in the CZ. So coming on down, well, let's talk about the mounting system. Obviously, you have the, I guess, patent pending mounting system on the Echelon that uses the pins and things of that nature. The pins that are in there with the optic plate are already ready for your RMR, so I didn't have to use any pins. I don't really like how far up into the glass the the sights come on either one of them. Now you can get a plate for the P-10c and mount a more full-size optic on there that will give you, you know, 1/8, you know, I don't know, maybe a 1/3 co-witness in there. I prefer the mounting system, of course, on the Echelon. I do have the Holosun P-10c, you know, flush mount optic on the CZ, as you can see, and I have the RMR on the Echelon, so I guess it has a better mounting system on the Echelon overall. You have a single slot accessory rail on the CZ P-10c, and you have 3 slots on the Echelon. Okay, the trigger guard is slightly larger on the P-10c. If you're shooting with gloves, things of that nature, a little bit better. Okay, a little bit bigger, but overall much the same. Ambidextrous on everything with the Echelon, and I know I said that wrong. You know, all you English people out there tell me how jacked up in country I am. That's fine, but you do have a ambi mag release, you do have a ambi slide lock slide release, and I prefer the takedown as well on the Echelon. The CZ takes down much like the Glock would. The slide lock slide release is ambi on the CZ, and you do have just, you know, a swappable mag release on the CZ. It is not ambi. Okay, as far as looks, I prefer the looks of the texturing on the Echelon, although I prefer the feel of the texturing on the CZ. I just feel like I have a better purchase in my hand. The Echelon texturing is pretty slick. So actually, the back strap on the CZ, I feel like, is a little bit too aggressive, and it's not aggressive enough on the Echelon, so maybe somewhere in the middle of those, but I still prefer the texturing and the grip and the feel in the hand on the CZ over the Echelon. The Echelon does have the memory pad as well as the CZ, although the memory pad on the Echelon would serve more as a gas pedal. Okay, the Echelon has a 15 round flush fit mag as well as a 18 round with an extension that comes in the box. You can make them both 18 rounders, which is what I've done. 15 round and 2 15 round flush fit mags on the CZ, although you can add a +2, giving you 17 rounds, so capacity is pretty close. Okay, overall, so the height on the CZ height is 5.3 inches. All right, the height on the Echelon, let's see here, is 5.1, so it's a little tiny bit shorter. On the Echelon, it weighs in at 24 ounces. On the CZ, the weight is 26, so it's a little bit heavier. But again, I just feel like internally the build quality is better. The overall length is 7.3 on the CZ, and on the Echelon, the overall length on it is 7.25. So as you can see, it kind of disappears behind it. They are very, very similar. MSRP on the Echelon is $749. I believe the MSRP on the CZ is significantly lower than that. I don't have the MSRP right in front of me, but I believe it comes in somewhere around the $549, $599 range. Certainly a little bit cheaper. Okay, let's see, anything else we want to talk about here? The width is 1.3 on the CZ, and the width on the Echelon is 1.2. Again, extremely similar. All right, definitely has a better recoil system, captive guide rod on the Echelon, a little flimsy guide rod inside of the CZ. Although again, if you look at the 2 barrels, it is a significant difference in the thickness and overall build quality of the barrel on the CZ. Again, I believe the internals are certainly better built on the CZ than is on the Echelon. All right, so with all the heights, lengths, weights, things of that nature out of the way, then let's talk about the trigger. All right, now on the CZ, all right, you have the center blade safety just like you do on the Echelon. They both have center blade safeties. The CZ has a decent amount of take up, no grit, hits a wall, breaks right there. There's no rolling brake. It breaks right when it hits the wall. Okay, coming in with the reset, very audible and very short. Brakes right there, no creep in it at all, no over travel. Very nice trigger on the CZ. Going to the Echelon, let's do the trigger on that. So center blade safety, not quite as much take up on the Echelon. Close, but not quite as much. It hits a wall, and it does have a rolling brake. Now, I'm not going to say it's unpredictable, but it is a rolling brake. The trigger is, okay, let's go. Reset is about as short as it is on the CZ, not as audible, and certainly does not push back on your finger nearly as much as does the CZ. So when you see the shooting here, let's just do the accuracy first and we'll talk about that. So I'm going to start with the Echelon and then we'll do the CZ. So let's take a look at that. So as you can see, I shot significantly better, way more accurately with the CZ than I did with the Echelon. Now, I will say that some of that is, again, a video I put up. Am I biased towards CZ? Go over and check that video out, and it will explain a little bit about, hey, everyone has a gun that fits them well, and the CZs just always fit me well, okay? And I just have always shot more accurately with the CZ. However, with that being said, with this trigger having a no roll in the brake, it breaks right on the wall, and having that very tactile pushing back on your finger, you know when it resets and you can take that next shot. I find myself hunting that on the Echelon, okay? And also with it having that rolling brake, I have a tendency sometimes to think it's going to break, especially when I am shooting it side by side with this one. So I have a tendency sometimes to want to dip a little bit, the little dip of death as they call it. So the trigger's not as good, in my opinion, on the Echelon, which I believe accounts more for, you know, being a little bit more all over the place on the target. Although I shot well with it, it's not bad at all. I think the same would be true, you know, trying to get on the target and just shoot as I do all the way across, trying to take all of them off of the Texas Star. And so we'll do that. We'll take a look at that. And, you know, again, try to pay attention to where the projectile is hitting the target. Not just that I am hitting it, but where it is hitting it. And we'll start with the Echelon and then we'll do the CZ. Let's take a look at that. Okay, as you can see, I did miss a few with both, okay? Got a few more with the CZ, as you can see, but if you'll pay attention to where I was hitting the target with the CZ, it was more center of the target where I was aiming, and I did miss one on the dueling tree, and of course, I missed one, I left one, should I say, on the Texas Star, but I ran out of ammo. I did have 18 rounds loaded up in both of them, but I would still give the slight edge to the CZ. So what people care about the most would obviously be the muzzle rise. You know, how does the comp work? Does it work better? Does it work worse on one versus the other? I will say it's kind of odd because the comp on the Echelon, you know, it kind of comes around the, or the port, should I say. I don't know why they call it a comp. It's unrifled on both of them. and it comes around the side of the slide, okay? And it's just concentrated to the top on the CZ. It does not come around the side, and obviously the port is much larger on the CZ than is on the Echelon, okay? Before we do that, the Echelon comes in a soft carrying case, small, and the CZ comes in a hard carrying case. They both have, well, the CZ has 3 backstrap options, and so does the Echelon. The Echelon backstraps are much easier to replace. The CZ comes with a cleaning kit and some snap caps, which I never use. Again, it does come with a +2 mag extension in the box as well. And I believe that's it in the Echelon. Obviously, like I said, it comes with the back straps, the 2 magazines, and very similar. I mean, very similar, you know, features, available options in the box, things of that nature. And obviously you do get your pin set in the Echelon, you know, to mount your different optics. So what everybody probably wants to know is the muzzle rise, which one was, you know, more snappy, if you will. So let's take a look at that, and I'll let you guys be mostly the judge on that, because it was, well, anyway, let's just watch it. All right, this is my opinion. Watching it back on my iPad as I did, I definitely feel like it wasn't drastic, but I definitely feel like the CZ handled the recoil slightly better than did the Echelon, which I completely expected given how much bigger the port is on the CZ than is on the Echelon. You guys can probably tell better, and I might be able to tell better once I edit the video, but definitely seems as though the CZ had less muzzle rise than the Echelon. Okay, so with that being said, which one am I picking? Again, as I said in the other video, am I biased towards CZ? I said that, you know, I've just always shot better with the CZ, just overall, all across the board, everything that they offer, okay? And I do feel like, again, the build quality is better on the CZ than is on the Echelon, although HS makes great products. I've never had a failure out of the Echelon. I've had every one they've ever offered, and they've all been flawless for me, okay? And I do want to like it. I do like it. I do like the feel in the hand. I like the looks of it. I like the feature set on the gun. You know, the feature set is, you know, nicer than it is on the CZ, and I've always wanted to like them. I just never have shot as well with them as I do some other guns, and that's why I've always sold all of them. It just might not be for me. That just may be the God's honest truth, okay? So I'm picking, again, both of them being ported, not going to carry the guns. They're just going to be range toys, and obviously if I'm going to shoot that much better out at the range and they're just toys, I'm picking the CZ for sure. Big surprise, right? Everybody give me a hard time about it in the comment section. I'm not knocking the Echelon. I like the Echelon a lot, and I would not be mad if it was the only thing available to me. In fact, I would feel blessed to have it, and it does have a nicer feature set on it, from the serrations, the slide work, the gas pedals on the side, all being ambi. Okay, for most people, the sight system, although I prefer the sights on the CZ, does have a better feature set on here. But if we're just talking about something I shot better with, CZ definitely has a better trigger by a lot, in my opinion, and I don't think that's my bias. I shot better with it, less recoil. Overall, big surprise, right? Going with the CZ. Nothing against the Echelon. Great firearm. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, on this beautiful day that the Lord has made, to God only be the glory.